Greetings, Montsho Nwasha, Akoma House Initiative, culturally based counseling and consulting, the art and science of Black love culture, and the Black Love School. Greetings, fam. Coming today with our art and science moment. We want to talk about quickly in this video how unresolved trauma can play out in your relationships, and most of the times it is playing out in your relationships. You know, I just want to start before Nwasha goes in to say that, you know, we have this term, and I saw a good friend of mine post it yesterday about emotional baggage, and we're very bullish about words and terms. And so we say that emotional baggage is a complex term, and it doesn't really indicate the true state of where we are. So whenever you hear the word or the term emotional baggage, you should replace it in your mind with unresolved trauma. Because if you could understand that unresolved trauma is something that needs to be resolved, it will lead you to the place of taking the appropriate action steps. But if you just saying emotional baggage, that's become a colloquialism that means we don't know what it means. But and sometimes in a relationship, a person be like, I got some emotional baggage, and you don't really know how to deal with that. So, Nwasha, what is some of the unresolved traumas that you see, and then we'll talk about some of the ways that they play out.
Well, first, I want, if you're listening, you know, or you're watching this video, drop some trauma that you've seen in your relationships, either in yourself or in the other person that you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
But some of the trauma that I definitely see in myself and my friends and our work is things that we kind of take for granted, especially in, you know, Black urban communities. So that is violence. So, you know, physical abuse, verbal abuse. It's also the absence of community. So neglect is definitely a trauma that we have. And those are very serious because they're happening for us. Typically, when we're very young, we pick up on trauma. You know, so you can be an infant and be hit, yelled at, or neglected. And so we have such a old rooted trauma. Seriously, trauma can even come in the womb for some of us. To the point that when we're born and when we're nurtured in that environment of some more trauma, in addition to the outside oppression, we end up developing our beliefs and our core values very early that are, you know, enmeshed with our traumatic situation. We can't even really see ourselves outside of trauma. You know, so sometimes even when people want the best in their relationship, they don't believe that someone can be trustworthy. They don't believe that there's such thing as unconditional love. They don't believe in themselves to recognize or set boundaries or hold boundaries. And those things ruin, you know, a relationship. At the minimum, they will hold a relationship back from the greatest potential. But sometimes it's just straight sabotage. So I know for me, I think I definitely had the isolation and the neglect in certain areas that made me overcompensate sometimes or overgive. Not that you can really overgive in truth, but from my perspective, doing the most.
Right.
To be like, okay, if I do this, and this, you know, I won't be neglected, or I won't be, I will be seen. And then the opposite of that, so, you know, a lot of times people's trauma shows up in those polar extremes. So you can go from overgiving to I'm not doing anything for anybody and I only care about myself.
Right.
Instead of the medium of
that's
really
emotional
having good,
isolation.
Boundaries.
Right.
Yeah, and it can be, and you know, it's interesting because it's the way you communicate. It's the way you bond or attach to another person.
Right,
so
because we got a lot of trauma bonding.
Right, it doesn't seem like you're isolating. You can be
Right.
a super extrovert. You know, you can be the life of the party. You can seek out relationships, but then when it comes to true intimacy, you can be like,
an emotional isolation. You ever see those people that, like, they're good looking, they got so much going on, they out and about, they're doing positive things, but they can never find a mate, or they never seem to mate?
Or they never keep a mate. Like they find one every year.
Yeah. That's
you know,
too.
so sometimes people are like, it didn't work. But then they find another one right away, and it's the love of their life. Then, it didn't work. We worked with a client once who was a young man who realized that it was almost like an expiration date to his relationship.
Yeah, that's what he
that
said.
When it comes about 14 to 18 months,
It's
I
over.
cannot make it past that. And
Yeah.
I think that those types of things, we sometimes recognize the pattern, but we put it on the other person because we don't think of magnetism. So we don't think that I have something in me that after I hit one season with a person, I can't go any deeper, or I can't find anything else about them to make this worthwhile. And when that happens a couple of times and you notice I tend to talk this way to a person, or people tend to talk this way to me, or this is how I feel when it comes to, sex or intimate conversations or any of those types of things, those are, clues. The self-awareness is the clue. And I don't see how we can, to me, we all need to uncover what the trauma is. It's not even a question of if there's been trauma.
Yeah, because we're dealing with a grandiose collective trauma as a people who are out of their minds, who don't speak their language, who don't have their own names, who whatever. So we have an egregious trauma as a group. And
it's
sometimes
impossible to get out of
it's become
without
so
trauma.
normalized that it's like a fish, like it's like water to a fish. It's so all around us that it's normal, and we definitely see that. I would be remiss to add to your list, though. I would be remiss if I didn't add sexual abuse trauma, because there's been a lot of molestation of children, and I was one of those children being molested by family members, and the impact of that is tremendous in an intimate relationship when it comes to your sexuality and how you express yourself sexually, as well as the ability to trust when the caregivers who are blood family abuse you in that way. And I spoke to Dr. Our good colleague and friend, Dr. Keisha Janelle Agar today, who does a lot of work around that, and we're planning to do something big together. I have worked with about 200 victims of sexual abuse, and I've also worked with about 14 or 15 perpetrators of sexual abuse on children. And it's really something. It's one of the unresolved traumas that has to be addressed, because it has happened to, it's reportedly that 1 out of 4, but I believe that the number is even higher, maybe 2 out of 4, maybe 50%, because some people were abused so early in their development, they don't even remember it. Like, my sexual assault started at 2 years old and went to 8 years old. So like, if you're dealing with that, I don't remember anything about being 2, 3, or maybe 4 or 5, but very few of us remember vivid memories about 2 or 3, especially when you can't even talk that well and somebody's taking advantage of you in that way. However, the psychological scars are present, even if you're not aware. Those seeds of damage have been planted, and then they start to gestate and bloom years later, and you don't even know why you have an aversion to trust or so many other things. So these are real things, and
but there is a sacred purpose to the challenge that we're going through, even in the global oppression, even in white supremacy. Sometimes because we can't see beyond the water, as Montsho was saying, we're the fish in the water, and all we know is the water right now. We don't have a view of the purpose of even catastrophe or oppression, as a greater divine purpose outside of this bubble of, where we're living. So, what's really important is to make use of your life and whatever has happened in your life, to be able to, reattach to the best boundaries, to, improve your communication and go to fulfilling levels in all of your relationships. Whatever the most important relationships are for you, you want them to be the best that they can be. If you have an important relationship in a family, you want it to be the best that it can be. If you have an intimate relationship, and truthfully, let's not skip over the relationship with yourself, because you have to have that in order to even have these other, fulfilling relationships. So it's so important to, luckily we're all talking about counseling right now and mental health, much more than we were, but it's very important, I think, also to come to understanding, spiritually, culturally, universally, about trauma, and about purpose. So when you're seeking out resolution, it's so important, I think, to be able to put it into your individual, schema, but then also the greater understanding of the world and what other people are going through. Because sometimes people, we talked about this in our Black Love School course a couple of weeks ago, sometimes when you reveal a little self-awareness in an intimate relationship, you can think or feel that it's used against you because the other
like
person
somebody hit you over the head. You doing that because
your mom beat you when you were 4 years old.
Yeah,
I remember that one time you told me she beat you in front of the bodega, and everybody laughed in the neighborhood. That's
why you're so hard to get along with, because you got your ass whooped in front of the bodega.
So this is the challenge, because everyone's not a psychologist, right? A psychiatrist, and even sometimes when you are, it doesn't necessarily become practical. So we have definitely worked with people who are doctors, who are lawyers, and what we have is we have a challenge around context of relationship understanding and how any trauma would affect your intimate beliefs and values. And that's what you're really living from. That's what you're speaking from. That's what you're thinking from. That's what you're acting from. And if you don't even know where you got a belief or a value from, and you don't even understand how it's serving you or not serving you, it's very difficult. We were talking about how it's like weeding a garden, right? You really got to uproot some stuff.
Right, before you could plant some good stuff.
Replace it with the seeds.
Yeah, and some people are in a cycle of dysfunction, and it's like a dysfunction of surprise. So they want to do well in relationships, but they have not uprooted the thing, as Nwasha is saying, that is stopping that. So you could plant the most beautiful hydrangeas, but if you don't take up those dandelion weeds or whatever, it's just going to take this stuff over. So, we just wanted to come and talk real quickly about trauma, and we wanted to say unresolved trauma needs professional help. You can cope absolutely on your own. You can get by. You can go along to get along. You confront. But if you want to heal, if you want to truly transform from tragedy to triumph or trauma to triumph, you're going to need someone who is clinically, culturally, consciously trained in how to do that. And we are that. So we're going to put a strategy session link in this video. You can click that link and just get a free consultation about how whatever the trauma is, and we can give you some strategies, some rituals, some things that you can address it, because hey, you already see that it doesn't go away. You have to remove it. It doesn't just naturally go away. Even when you grow past it and you act like you forget it, it sits like in the back of your mind, like a little rock in the back of your mind, an immovable rock. That's usually causing pain, or at the least blocking you from experiencing your fullest emotional potential. So you gotta deal with it, you gotta move it, and it can be done. I don't care what the trauma is. If you're alive and breathing, there's somebody who can help you transform and heal it, and I think you're looking at them. So we are the Akoma House Initiative, culturally based counseling and consulting, the art and science of Black love culture, and the creators of the Black Love School. Right. Come get this work.
So whether it is, personal, so the self, the other, you need a greater understanding and to find the purpose, or you're looking for the love, right? We always are using that SOUL acronym. Everyone has one of those relationships that needs to be improved, better understood, enhanced, resolved. We all have that. So we're here for you.
We are here today, and I am living proof. Nwasha is living proof. We've overcome personal traumas. I am out here now, master's level therapist, a victim of sexual assault, verbal, physical, all kind of stuff as a child. So, and I've lived in these environments, and so has Nwasha. We see it all with our people all around the world. We are traumatized people. We're not a broken people. We're traumatized, and so we have to heal the unresolved trauma. And we have a way to do it. So check us out, like and share this video, please, because it's serious. We have a good time with it, but it's serious work that can transform your life or the life of someone you love. So please send this to someone, let them say, yo, check this out, what you think about them, and, get a free consultation. You have nothing to lose, everything to heal. So as we are celebrating our 20th anniversary week, we shouting y'all out and saying, as always, we greet you in peace and say,
Akoma.
Hotel.